Mr. Chairman, I thank the various members for their cuts and questions, and I hope to address several of them in my response, especially those from Ms. Jessica Tan, Mr. Alex Yam, Mr. Seah Kian Peng, Mr. Xie Yao Chuan, and Mr. Chris D'Souza. The digital space has had a deep impact on our daily lives, and this transformative effect will continue for some time. For many Singaporeans, digitalization carries the promise of more convenience, more efficiency, more options. And as we do more online, we face an increased risk of cyber attacks, online scams, data breaches. We need safe and secure digital spaces. We need the online environment to be an enabler so that our people can benefit from the opportunities of this digital age. Today, I'll focus on how we develop online safety and security, the strong foundations of our plans for digitalization. Our strategies have to cover a broad range, from infrastructure development, regulations, partnerships. We need to address a wide variety of issues so that our companies and our people can trust digital systems that are so central to our lives. Beyond assurance, we want people to step up, to be empowered to take charge of their online safety and to embrace the digital age with confidence. Strong foundations depend on a robust digital infrastructure. Our past investments in this infrastructure have recently enabled workers to switch to telecommuting and students to attend online lessons with relative ease during the pandemic. Looking ahead, we will need world-class, secure, and resilient 5G networks. It was thus a policy priority for our nationwide 5G networks to be standalone. New standalone networks, 5G, all the way through from end to end. 5G standalone networks unlock the full suite of capabilities, including network slicing and ultra-reliable low-latency communications necessary for applications such as cloud gaming and smart factories. 5G deployment has started, and by the end of next year, we will have at least 50% standalone outdoor coverage for 5G, and nationwide 5G standalone coverage will arrive by the end of 2025. However, robust digital infrastructure alone cannot guarantee safe and secure spaces. Other keys to a strong foundation are a robust regulatory regime and an approach to remain relevant and fit for purpose amidst the evolving technological landscape. Data is a critical resource used to inform business decisions and also power emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence. Personal data requires strong safeguards and accountability, but there is a balance that we need to strike. You overcorrect for business innovation and you undermine consumer protection, privacy, and trust. On the other hand, pursuing consumer interests narrowly hampers potentially business development. The public may ultimately suffer from poorer and more costly services. Our strong foundations, therefore, also need us to be agile and calibrated. We recently amended the Personal Data Protection Act, the PDPA. So you may subscribe, for example, to the mailing list of an online shop, and as a result, you can receive customized recommendations based on your browsing history or based on your prior transactions. This is a benefit to you as the customer, as the consumer, from having shared your data. Under the amended PDPA, if there is a data breach which may cause significant harm to affected individuals, you are to be notified directly by the shop so that you can take timely, proactive measures to protect your data, such as changing your passwords. If you choose to opt out of the mailing list, the shop is required to remove your details from the list and stop sending you recommendations within a reasonable period. So businesses, as a result of the amendments, are held to a higher standard with more transparent and accountable practices. Like data, electronic transactions are also central to the global economy. To support wider digitalization, Parliament passed the amendment to the Electronic Transactions Act this year to adopt the model law on electronic transferable records from the United Nations Commission on International Trade Law. The shipping, logistics, and finance sectors now stand to benefit from faster and more secure electronic transactions compared to the paper-based transactions. We expect to see benefits in terms of efficiency, productivity, and hopefully cost savings as well. One concern arising from our digital push is the rise in online scams. In Singapore, the most common type of scams relates to e-commerce, and these increased by almost 20% from 2019. Overall, victims to scams lost more than 200 million Sing dollars last year. We take this matter very seriously. It's something that people are anxious about. It erodes trust in their transactions and their activities online, and we are working across the government to tackle these scams. For example, we require telcos to attach the plus symbol for all incoming overseas calls. IMDA also requires telcos to enhance capabilities to block calls from commonly spoofed numbers. As a result, 28 million suspected scam calls were blocked in the fourth quarter last year. However, the space is dynamic. There's an evolving behavior of the scammers, the people who try to do malice to us. So existing solutions to block scam calls from overseas will never be foolproof. Today, no telco can verify with absolute certainty that a given incoming call is fraudulent. So IMDA is working with the telcos to build new analytic capabilities within their networks to better identify and block spoof calls with numbers that appear local without blocking legitimate calls. These measures fit in with what the Ministry of Home Affairs, MHA, is doing in terms of their broader approach to mitigate scams. We will continue to work closely with MHA through the Inter-Ministry Committee on Scams. Cybersecurity threats are also growing in both number and sophistication. Members have just heard about the recent SolarWinds breach, and may be aware of it. This cyber attack compromised a network management software used extensively by major companies and governments worldwide. Notably, the software that was compromised was trusted and had privileged access to internal networks. It was a very sophisticated attack that went undetected for months. Closer to home, Singtel reported that some files were taken as a result of a breach to FTA. It's a third-party file-sharing system that Singtel uses. Singaporeans are concerned about whether our systems are safe. So are we. And sensitive information needs to be sufficiently protected. With more activities taking place online, it's important that people trust the digital systems we use to store, collect, and transfer our information. The reality is that we will not be able to prevent every cyber attack. Malicious actors only need to exploit one vulnerability to compromise our systems, while defenders must safeguard systems under their charge against all threats all the time. Consistent and deliberate efforts to strengthen our cybersecurity are thus critical. Many essential services like banking and healthcare are powered by information and communications technology. These systems are our critical information infrastructure, or CIIs. Today, all CII owners must maintain a mandatory level of cybersecurity as part of the Cybersecurity Act. However, we also recognize that most organizations, including CII owners, engage vendors to support their operations. Therefore, we also need to manage cybersecurity risks across the supply chain. Doing so requires CII owners to have a better understanding of their vendors, to identify systemic risks, and improve the level of cyber hygiene with the vendors. To this end, we are developing a CII supply chain program, a partnership involving all the stakeholders, CSA, the Cybersecurity Agency of Singapore, the CII owners, and their vendors. This program will provide recommended processes and sound practices for all stakeholders to manage cybersecurity risks in the supply chain. And the discussions that we will have with the stakeholders as a result of this program will also help us in government to improve our policies around supply chain risks. In the longer term, our critical information infrastructure sectors and the companies there will also need to adopt a zero-trust cybersecurity posture. This shift in mindset is necessary to defend against supply chain attacks by highly sophisticated threat actors, such as those behind the SolarWinds breach. In concrete terms, this means that CII owners should not trust digital activity in their networks without verification. They should also authenticate continuously, detect anomalies in a timely manner, and validate transactions across network segments. This work will continue, and it will become increasingly complex in the future. Cybersecurity, therefore, has to be a collective effort and a core part of our lives in this digital age, integrated into the products we use and the way that we behave online. As more enterprises go digital, our exposure to cyber threats grows in parallel. Cyber attacks on companies have a far-reaching impact on our wider economy. So, as part of the Safer Cyberspace Master Plan, CSA will launch the SG CyberSafe program to support companies in strengthening their cybersecurity. It comprises two parts. First, we will provide informational resources and educational material for key roles including C-suite executives, cybersecurity teams, and frontline employees, based on their specific roles and knowledge needs. We need to shift attitudes and raise cybersecurity awareness through in-house training. Secondly, we will roll out a voluntary SG CyberSafe trust mark to provide a mark of distinction for companies that have invested appropriately and significantly in cybersecurity. This means that if you are a consumer, a business looking for an HR processing service, for example, and care about the cybersecurity level of that service provider, you can look for this trust mark for added assurance that this service provider takes cybersecurity seriously. And CSA will engage with stakeholders regarding the specifics of this trust mark from April this year. Our cybersecurity talent base is a key enabler of these efforts, and we are working closely with industry partners and government agencies to nurture and grow our cybersecurity workforce. First, to meet near-term demand, we facilitate the training and upskilling of cybersecurity professionals, as well as fresh and mid-career non-cybersecurity professionals for cybersecurity jobs through programs such as IMDA's Tech Skills Accelerator. Second, to strengthen our talent pipeline for the longer term, we encourage youth to pursue a career in the field through cyber outreach initiatives like SG Cyber Talent, which has engaged over 7,000 participants to date. And thirdly, to groom world-class cybersecurity leaders. We launched the SG Cyber Leaders program to create a community for current and developing cyber leaders to exchange ideas and learn about global best practices. All of us need to play our part to create a safer and more secure cyberspace. There are things that we can do as individuals. We should enable two-factor authentication, update our software in a timely manner, choose a passphrase rather than a password, and stay vigilant to spot the signs of phishing. But there are also things that we do as a country. Our efforts extend globally. Singapore participates actively in international discussions to develop and implement norms in line with our interests. As cyber threats are global and transborder, we are working closely with international partners across the UN and ASEAN to develop and implement norms for responsible state behavior. For instance, we are producing an implementation checklist with specific actions that countries can take to implement cyber norms. This effort contributes to a rules-based multilateral order in cyberspace and gives all states, big or small, confidence, predictability, and stability, essential for economic progress, job creation, and technology adoption. In terms of AI governance, Singapore takes an open and collaborative approach to govern the use of AI, recognizing that we need to safeguard consumers' interests and facilitate innovation. We launched the second edition of the Model AI Governance Framework in 2020, which incorporates feedback and examples from international and local companies across a diverse set of sectors in response to the first edition of the framework. And it translates key ethical AI principles such as human centricity into practical measures in line with our national AI strategy. Ultimately, we lay all of these strong foundations so that our people can look ahead and reap the full benefits of the digital economy. We will remain open and integrated with the global economy to enable our companies to maximize opportunities beyond our shores. While our existing trade agreements meet the needs of traditional trade in goods and services, we recognize the need for new norms and rules to support cross-border digital transactions, like e-invoicing, data flows, digital identities. And that's why Singapore pioneered the Digital Economy Agreements, or DEAs, building on existing networks and initiatives. These DEAs facilitate seamless end-to-end digital trade, enable trusted data flows, and build trust in digital systems. Beyond these DEAs, businesses can look forward to further support for transferring data to and from overseas seamlessly and securely. Regionally, Singapore has led the development of an ASEAN model contractual clauses, terms and conditions that may be included in legally binding contracts for the transfer of personal data across borders. We also led the development of an ASEAN data management framework, a guide for businesses to implement a data management system with appropriate data protection safeguards. With these ready-to-use and flexible templates to transfer personal data, businesses operating in ASEAN markets stand to benefit from shorter contract negotiations on data flows. In conclusion, Mr. Chairman, our success in digitalization has also exposed new vulnerabilities. These will only grow as technologies evolve and become more complex. Trust in our digital systems is key to the success of our digital economy efforts. And without the trust to transact or to innovate, our best efforts to develop a digital ecosystem and reap dividends, create opportunities, will fall short. Strong foundations such as I've described will fortify our defenses against online will fortify our defenses against online threats and support this trust that we need to grow. But they're not sufficient. We need our companies and people to be aware of risks, vigilant of the manifestations of these risks, make informed choices to protect our safety. We can and must make the online space more secure and more trusted, and thus create more opportunities for all of us. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.